Okay, everybody. Today we're doing a little bit different style of video. I found a really interesting Zelda theory, and I was going to make a big long video about it. Well, I was actually looking to make kind of a shorter video, but then I found this theory, and I thought it was really, really cool. I started reading through it, and I was like, man, this is really, really cool. And so I'm just gonna read through this whole thing and essentially react to it. I know I'm completing my metamorphosis to being a React tuber. But I'm just going to read through this and give some of my thoughts on it because it's really, really cool. So this is about the article itself is found in Zelda Dungeon. It's called "The Message of Majora's Mask." Looks like it came out December 2012. But then there's also this forward here. So I think it might have came out a little bit before that. And this is kind of a re-release of that. It's by Hylian Dan or Dan Merrill. And yeah, it's just about Majora's Mask and some of the hidden details inside that game. And I thought it was really cool. So I'm going to read through it, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what I think this all means. I apologize if the recording setup is weird. I'm using my like face cam on my computer to capture me right now. So you just have to be reading through it, and then yeah, I'll get my thoughts. So okay, here we go. Part 1, Introduction. A few years ago, while I was replaying The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, I reached the top of Stone Tower and took another look at the strange scenery there before moving on. The gigantic, pointing, blood-stained hand again caught my attention. It seemed so strange, so ominous, like there was some cryptic meaning behind it that I just couldn't place. But this time, something clicked in my mind. I understood the significance of that pointing hand, the meanings that had always eluded me before. Now I wanted to know why it was there. What secrets has the game been hiding all this time? So just perfect introduction, sets up a ton of intrigue. Down here, I believe you can actually see the hand he's talking about, this one right here. Now what's funny is I've played Majora's Mask a whole bunch. It's actually, depending on what day you ask me, it's either my favorite or my second favorite Zelda game. It goes back and forth between Majora's Mask and Tears of the Kingdom for me. I have never once noticed this pointed hand. The nice thing about doing this theory is that it's made me really want to replay that game. So I'll probably be doing that pretty soon. I might stream it. I just got a capture card, so I could potentially do that. But anyway, let's keep moving on. So, Termina's Tower of Babel. After investigating the Stone Tower Temple and glancing through several theories posted online, I pieced together my own theory. According to this theory, the Stone Tower Temple is related to the Tower of Babel. They stood for a moment staring up the structure, imposing and impossible and threatening. What was the story of the Tower of Babel? Does anyone know? It's a Bible thing, right? Jobs ask. This is like from a book, it seems. I don't know. This is kind of an interesting little introduction here. It's a Bible thing, right? Jobs ask. Mostiel shook his head pityingly. You are such a heathen, Duck. The people that made a tower to reach all the way up to heaven. God didn't like their attitude, getting above themselves and all, so he turned them one against each other by making them all speak different languages. That way they couldn't cooperate anymore to make any more towers to heaven. Jobs made a face. He was on the verge of saying that was a stupid story, but Mostiel would be offended. An allegory of human pride, Miss Violet Blake said. A pretty good allegory if you wish to instruct people in humility. Now this is interesting because, like, if I were writing this article, and I don't want to say I would do a better job than this person because this article is like masterfully written, but I probably just put a quote of the Bible itself. But maybe this person wasn't quite familiar with the actual Bible. An ancient people built Stone Tower as a stairway to the heavens. They would invade the sacred realm and slay the goddesses of the Triforce, using the power of the Giant's Mask. They would prove once and for all that their four beloved giants were superior to some female deities. So this is kind of the thesis of this whole argument, which is really cool. This idea that the people of Termina built this stone tower temple and essentially to get up to heaven, and then they would use the Giant's Mask, which in the game turns you into a giant, and they would kill the gods, which is just so cool. And one thing I love about the Legend of Zelda series is that, like, you don't know if this stuff would have explicitly been planned by the people who were creating Zelda, but the way they just design stuff, it provides so much room for interpretation and for all these theories to come out. And I'm like, I can't imagine that all this was intentional. In fact, I think it probably wasn't intentional. But it's so cool that people can piece together these theories. It really speaks to creativity of the people that play these games and just kind of enhances the experience. So let's keep going. The goddesses were not so pleased, so they let their divine light arrows fall into the hands of these wicked people. When the light of justice shone upon the blood-stained emblem of the tower, it rearranged things. The world was reversed so that the tower was positioned in the heavens and the sky was beneath the people's feet. The people came across a strange portal in the sky. When they entered it, they were transported into another dimension. But this dimension was not the sacred realm they had hoped to find. The universe had been flipped upside down, and so the stairway to the heavens became a road to hell. This dark realm consisted of a vast desert scorched by violent sandstorms, and in this realm there lived an evil being, a monster that had been sealed away after its makers realized the extent of its dark powers. It was Majora's Mask. The wicked people delighted in their discovery and brought it back with them into their world. They built monuments to the mask both in the desert and the temples of their own world, and so their world became marked by the devil. This cursed land was given the name Termina because it was doomed to end. So really cool here. So essentially, this is like kind of theorizing that Termina existed almost before the Termina that we know, and they built this temple to sneak up to the heavens and try to kill the gods. And then the gods themselves left the light arrows in the temple and said, hey, use these. They use it. It flips the heavens upside down. They enter their portal that's supposed to take them to the heavens. Instead, it takes them to hell, which it describes as a sandy realm, scorched by violent sandstorms, which is the boss chamber of the Stone Tower Temple where you fight... it's not Moldorm, right? You fight Twin Mold. And then there they found the Majora's Mask. They created Termina, and then Termina was cursed. And so that's why Termina is so bizarre. So that's really cool. Okay, fact or fiction? Fact or fan fiction, sorry. Belief or disbelief rests with you, the Garo. So, that theory might sound like a bunch of fan fiction. Nevertheless, there is content in the game that led me to those conclusions. I'll review the evidence, explain my reasoning, and let you decide whether or not I might be onto something. To start with, there's the entrance to Stone Tower. Sometimes before I even began putting together this theory, I noticed that the huge statue at the entrance was a bit obscene. The statue shows a giant naked man sitting with his hands on his knees. His mouth is gaping open, his tongue extends to the ground, covering up the area between his wide open legs. You enter the Stone Tower Temple by walking up his tongue and into his mouth. So this is the statue he's talking about. And like, I'll be honest with you, man, I never pieced that together. Personally, that was never something that I thought of, but definitely is interesting that, yeah, it does look like this man with his tongue hanging out and he's got his hands on his knees. Yeah, interesting. Inside the tower, you must manipulate a series of blocks that share a very similar design. The blocks depict the same nude creature as the entrance statue. But here you can see more of the figure. If you look at the blocks from a few different angles, you'll notice that the bottom side shows the gargoyles naked behind. Next to the butt cheeks, sorry mom if you're watching this, right where you might expect to see the creature's crotch, instead you see the Triforce, the sacred emblem of the goddess of Hyrule. The gargoyle is licking the Triforce which is disrespectfully displayed on the bottom side of the blocks. So this is what this is showing right here. And honestly, guys, I think this is super cool that he picked up on this. One, because I don't know how you would see the underside of the blocks normally. Maybe you have to manipulate the game. You can probably glitch through something. Or maybe when you flip the world, you can see it. But yeah, look, it's totally the same guy, and there's his tongue sticking out, and then below where you would see something obscene, the Triforce is there instead, which is interesting because Triforce imagery isn't super common in Termina. I mean, it's around the game occasionally. Sorry, but I feel like it's not nearly as explicit as it is in Ocarina of Time. So that is really cool. And again, an intentional design they must have had to put on the asset. And then there's the giant hand mentioned earlier. It points to the sky and its finger is ablaze. Right next to the pointing hand is a pillar that happens to be rather phallic. Now, when I was playing the game trying to figure out why the pointing hand was there, it occurred to me that the builders of this tower were saying something along the lines of "screw you" to somebody. The ring of fire on the fingertip indicates anger, and we can all figure out what the phallus implies. So, don't demonetize me, YouTube. Just kidding. You can't demonetize me because I'm not monetized in the first place. But yeah, some imagery here that could be construed as somewhat obscene, I guess. I don't know. This part seems a little bit tenuous to me because I feel like any pillar you could say is that. But I do think the hand pointing to the sky is really interesting, again, because I've never noticed this in the game. But yeah, definitely pointing up with the fire in the finger, so he's saying like angrily pointing towards the gods. Many people who've read this theory quickly dismiss the idea that Nintendo would intentionally place a phallus in a Zelda game. That is kind of me. But it's worth pointing out that Banjo-Tooie, another family-friendly N64 game released a month or so after Majora's Mask, did the same thing, though perhaps for less tasteful reasons, and Nintendo did display butt cheeks on the gargoyle blocks in the Zelda game. I expect the artist who works on this game would notice what these pillars could appear to be, especially after designing those obscene statues for the same area. The fact they prominently displayed that pointing hand next to one of these pillars further indicates that they intended for the pillars to be phallic, and that they wanted older players to notice. Earlier designs of the stone tower still include the phalluses and pointing hand, indicating that they're important to the design of the stone tower, not just last minute addition. So this is apparently some imagery you can find in Banjo-Tooie. I'll let you do with that what you will. And then these are the same pillars again. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this. I think they're probably just pillars, but he's gonna tell me off again here. Most likely, plenty of people will still reject the idea that Nintendo would knowingly place this sort of content in a Zelda game. But if those pillars are indeed meant to be phallic, Nintendo included them for tasteful, justified reasons. Their design is abstract enough that younger players would not catch on, and their inclusion adds a great level of depth and darkness to the game's story and setting. Majora's Mask is a trippy, out there sort of game. There's the man stuck in the toilet, the moon that comes to life, and the beautiful field you enter before the final battle. Majora's Mask is not afraid to be shocking and strange, and there always seems to be a great deal of artistic merit and to the content of this game. What the game so far is to include an abstract structure that's supposed to look like a phallus to older players. It's up for you to decide what to believe. So yeah, an interesting theory here. Sorry, I just gotta confirm my recording is still going. Oh, sorry, I'm in full screen here. Okay, we're good. Sorry about that. So again, I'm not sure 100% believe this, but I don't feel like it needs that design to really go with the theory he's talking about. I think that finger pointing into the sky is enough to be kind of a screw you feeling towards the gods. But let's keep going. Going back to the pointing hand, it's probably not a stretch to say that the screw you message is directed at the goddesses of the Triforce. The hand points toward the sky, which is often associated with the heavens. The heavens can be associated with the goddesses and the sacred realm in this case, because the image of the Triforce actually appears in Stone Tower. The game's artists are reminding us of Hyrule's goddesses with that symbol. So if you remember in Ocarina of Time, they talk about kind of the creation myth of Hyrule. There's the three goddesses, the golden goddesses that create the lands, and then essentially embody themselves into the Triforce, which kind of represent those things: wisdom, courage, and power. So this is saying that those same gods are the ones that Termina is saying a screw you to, or at least the Stone Tower temple is. There's actually more than one phallic pillar in Stone Tower. 4 of them surround the giant face that is the entrance to the temple. Each phallus represents one of the 4 male giants. I will say that is a funny observation there, but unless he covers this in this article, the giants very explicitly do not have those parts to them. I think that's pretty intentional in the game, so it is a little funny that he's bringing this up here. The design of the temple entrance is also reminiscent to the bearded faces of the giants, though we never see a giant with his mouth open. But the implied message here seems to be the builders of the Stone Tower Temple love the giants of Termina and reject the female goddesses who claim to be superior beings. The architects might have planned to wage war against the goddesses once they had invaded their realm. The giant's mask is tucked away inside the Stone Tower Temple. The game does not provide any explicit backstory for the mysterious artifact, but if we accept that the architects loved the giants and hated the goddesses, we can assume that they wanted to demonstrate the superiority of the giants. The giant's mask was their symbolic weapon. It would bestow tremendous power upon them, the power of a giant. Once they had reached the heavens, they hoped to use that power to destroy the goddesses. Now, the goddesses of the Triforce responded to this blasphemy by flipping the stone tower upside down. They allowed the sacred light arrows to appear in this most wicked corner of Termina, so that their divine light would smite the evil. The light rearranged the tower so that it would lead the architects not to heaven, but to hell where they belonged. This hell would later serve as Twimold's lair, but prior to that, it had been the realm where the ancient tribes sealed away the Majora's Mask. And then here we get some other examples of some things here. I wish yeah, just let me blow this out. I wonder, can I zoom in here? No, it's not letting me do that. Unfortunately. No, it's just my spotlight search. Okay, well anyway, I'm just going to read this out here and you can look at these things here. 1. The number 4 is of great significance to the world of Termina since it represents the 4 regions of the world, the 4 temples and the 4 giant guardians. Throughout the game, you can see many variations of a sort of compass emblem, a design showing 4 circles or other shapes arranged in a cross pattern. This design represents the world of Termina, the regions to the north, south, east, and west, and the clock town at its center. The 4 pillars of the stone tower are yet another variation of this design. So if you can see here, again, I wish I could blow this up, but I can't right now. You've got 4, kind of this 4 symbol there. This cross here that can be found. There's 4 things there. This right here, 4 circles pointing outwards, clock town in the middle. So obviously this design philosophy of 4 things with one in the center is kind of central throughout the game. The game is designed almost like a big pie with 4 pieces to it. That's one of the things I really love about Majora's Mask is its central design of its main town. And it lets you kind of branch off from either direction. I remember when I was growing up, I felt that was like super magical because I thought you could go to any area first and do whatever dungeon you wanted in whatever order. Obviously you can't, but that idea was explored later in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. But I just love the design of Termina in general. I think it's so cool. Okay, the imprisonment of Majora's Mask. This is some Happy Mask Salesman reading here. The mask was stolen from me. It was called Majora's Mask. It is an accursed item from legend that is said to have been used by an ancient tribe in its hexing rituals. It is said that an evil and wicked power is bestowed upon the one who wears that mask. According to legend, the troubles caused by Majora's Mask were so great, the Ancient Ones, fearing such catastrophe, sealed the mask in shadow forever, preventing its misuse. But now, that tribe from legend has vanished, so no one really knows the true nature of the mask's power. But I feel it. I went to great lengths to get that legendary mask. When I finally had it, I could sense the doom of a dark omen brewing. It was that unwelcome feeling that makes your hair stand on end. And now that imp has it, the Happy Mask Salesman. Happy Mask Salesman is like one of my favorite Zelda characters ever. He's just so creepy and weird, and you never really find out what his deal is. And I think that's so cool. I think all the theories that he is one of the people from the ancient tribe or something is interesting. I would love to see that explored more, but I know Nintendo doesn't really like going back to visit old lore. So for now, I just have to think of the Happy Mask Salesman in my fan fiction brain. Super interesting. Okay, there was a piece missing from the salesman's story. If the mask was sealed away, why was the salesman worried about it? Are we to presume that the salesman himself broke the seal and freed Majora from her prison, thinking that he could do a better job of guarding the evil artifact? That doesn't seem to make complete sense, but the game dodges this detail at first. An alternate explanation would be that someone else had broken the seal and found Majora's mask. The people who found it didn't understand the true nature of the mask's power, but the salesman could sense its evil radiating from afar. To prevent catastrophe, the salesman tracked down the mask to prevent its further misuse. So, this is kind of painting the mask salesman as a good guy, even though I've always found him to be kind of a creepy little evil dude. But I guess maybe he's not evil because he wants to stop Skull Kid from destroying the world. But it does seem interesting that he's so fascinated with this particularly powerful mask. And then even weirder is that he shows up as those little kids when you get to the moon. So, yeah, super bizarre. Indeed, there's evidence for this. Twin Mold's desert layer is filled with monuments in honor of Majora's mask. And in the first room of the Stone Tower Temple, there's an enormous statue. At first, the statue seems to depict a grotesque face sticking out its tongue. But when the tower is reversed, the statue bears a striking resemblance to Majora's mask. I assume the designers of the game didn't want this revelation to be too obvious. I think they wanted the inverted statue to be uncannily familiar. It is not heart-shaped like Majora's mask, but if you look closely, you can see that an emblem was painted at the bottom of the statue. Part of the emblem is missing, indicating that part of the statue is also missing. Before the stone fragments had fallen to the sky, the statue had in fact been shaped like a heart and was originally a statue of Majora's mask. Now, this is interesting. So we've got this right here. This is supposed to be I think this is what it looks like. Oh, wow. That's actually super cool. Whoa. That's kind of eerie. Look. This is what it looks like. I was like, this doesn't look like Majora's mask at all. Like, what is he talking about? And then this is showing its original design. You flip it upside down, though, and look. That totally does look just like Majora's mask. That's creepy. Majora's Mask is such a creepy game, dude. Like, what the heck is with this? The Stone Tower architects had broken the seal of the ancient tribe. They found Majora's Mask in the desert realm. They built the monuments there in honor of it. They brought it back with them into their world, and in the temple they built a gigantic statue of the mask. Above the statue is a doorway, and beyond the door there's a straight path to the portal to the desert. This path can be accessed no other way, so the statue of Majora's Mask serves as a gateway to the desert. Remember, the desert, they said, was this kind of nether region, or this hell that they accessed when they went through the portal trying to get to heaven, and they reached down to hell, where they think Twin Mold resides. So, super cool. Destined to fade. Majora's mask had been freed from its prison, the devil had escaped from hell. The world it entered was named Termina, a name that seems to be considered almost taboo. Hardly anyone speaks the word Termina within the game. Terminatio, termination, determination, setting of boundaries. Termino, restrict, define, close, set to a set a limit to. Terminus, a boundary, mark, limit, end, border. Latin English dictionary. So just a couple, like, oh, I see. It's Latin terms that are similar to termina going to English. So terminatio, termino, or terminus. Termina was a world designed to end, a fact that its inhabitants weren't eager to think about. However, there are a few beings in the game that seem to understand more about Termina and its destiny than they let on. The Happy Mask Salesman, the Owl, the Giant Turtle, the Giants themselves. Ho 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 hoot. That was probably supposed to be hoo 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 hoot. This is a rare sight. You are a fairy child, correct? What business might you have in this poisoned swamp? I dare you not venture further. I shall pass no judgment. It is better that you hurry back to town. This swamp you are in has lost its guardian deity, but it was destined to fade anyway. Hoo hoot. This theory is so cool. Like, I never even thought about this fact that he's talking about how people don't say the word Termina a whole ton, and the idea that Termina itself was destined to fade away, which is really cool. I wonder if he'll go into it further, but if there is almost this idea that Termina was supposed to be destroyed, I wonder if you could see Link's saving of the game as almost like him subverting destiny, or like subverting the will of the game. And then theory one further on, which I don't believe would be true, but if we were to assume that the Link from Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time is the hero shape that shows up in Twilight Princess, maybe his subversion of the destiny in Termina is what cursed him to become. I know a lot of people think that he gets lost in the Lost Woods, and it's what curses him to become a Stalfos, and that's why he's a skeleton. He could just be a weird skeleton guy now that he's dead, but it could be interesting. It's like he saves Termina. He is essentially sent back to Hyrule, but is sent back to the Lost Woods, and he can't escape, and that's what happens to him. So like almost like turned away for stopping what was supposed to be destiny, with Termina supposed to being destroyed. Okay, back onto this. Hoo hoot. And that destiny is not solely limited to this swamp. Ooh. If you have the courage and determination to proceed in the face of destiny, then I shall teach you something useful. Before coming here, had you not seen any of the stone statues that bear closer resemblance to me? I've placed those throughout the land to aid the one with the power to change the destiny of this land, wherever he may appear. Okay. Creepy. Again, changing the destiny, because Termina was meant to fade out. The turtle and the giants seem to have been relatively divine figures akin to the great Deku Tree of Hyrule. The goddesses of the Triforce must have had great plans for the world of Termina before early crimes were committed. They created these guardians to protect the new realm, to come to the aid of its people when they call out for help. But when Link enters Termina, he finds that these beings are essentially dormant, either imprisoned or simply observing the events quietly as Termina slips towards oblivion. Now I can continue resting in peace. I too must abide the laws of ancient times, and again merely watch from my deep slumber. But the evil that haunts this land is not completely vanished, Link. I shall depart after enjoying Lulu's voice a bit longer. I think the gods can permit that. Hia, hia, hia. What a weird laugh noise. That's what the giant turtle says. Here the turtle says something about the laws of ancient times, implying that they limit his involvement in the affairs of Termina. Yeah, that is really interesting that he talks about how the gods won't permit him to stay much longer. He says, I think the gods can permit that. Like, maybe the gods will let him do it. So implying that the gods at this point are limiting his involvement in the realm. And like it's saying, if Termina is a land that is committed like blasphemy against the gods, they're probably saying, we don't want this turtle to be helping them because screw them because they don't like us. Okay, now, the Happy Mask Salesman is an interesting character. Though he's most likely not on the same level as the giants, there is an interesting mystical quality to him. He vanishes into thin air at the end of the game, and at the start he appears out of nowhere and claims to have been following Link. He celebrates masks, which are extremely prominent in Termina's culture, and he just happens to have somewhere he needs to go 3 days after he meets Link at the time of Termina's apocalypse. Not to mention how he appears to be the adult incarnation of the masked children who play in the strange moon world. That is something that's interesting, that the Masked Salesman's original excuse he gives you is that he needs to be gone in 3 days. Like, he's going to leave, and so that's why you need to get the mask back to him, and not that the world will be destroyed. Like, maybe he doesn't know that, but it seems like he really does. It's possible that the salesman is a sort of divine being, perhaps not on the same level as the owl or sages of Hyrule. Whatever his relationship with the goddesses may be, he clearly stuck his nose right in the middle of Termina's affairs. He was aware of some peril facing Termina, so he tracked down Majora's Mask and escaped with it into Hyrule, attempting to prevent the Great Catastrophe. His actions seemed to have violated the laws of ancient times. However, he did not have the power to change the destiny of this land, and so his efforts failed. Skull Kid stole the mask from him and brought it back to Termina, where it had a dark destiny to fulfill. Maybe the owl relays an alternate form. Oh, interesting. This is a little note down here. And maybe the owl is really an alternate form of the Happy Mask Salesman. After all, Link is able to change forms by wearing certain masks, and the owl of Hyrule, Gabora, is hinted to be Rauru in disguise. Interesting. So this is another cool theory that the owl is actually the Happy Mask Salesman. That's why he knows so much about Hyrule. And he's changing shape by putting on a mask that would turn him into that. Just like Rauru can become Gabora in the original Ocarina of Time game. That's never confirmed, but it seems like a pretty common theory, and that seems pretty likely to me. Okay, so essentially we've got these divine beings, and it seems like the Happy Mask Salesman is one of them. They are permitted to engage with Termina, but not really permitted to interfere with them as much, to the point where it seems like they're almost restricted right now. Again, this is assuming that Termina is a big screw you to the gods, and so they're like, okay, screw you guys too. Okay, the goddesses in Termina. People have read the Tower of Babel theory often respond with certain questions and criticism. Many of them involve the alleged role of the goddesses of the Triforce in the story of Majora's Mask. Why would the goddesses respond to the blasphemy of the tower by allowing all of Termina to be destroyed? Is Link working against the goddesses by stopping their destruction? I wonder if it's going to go into the actual Bible, because there's a lot of stories in the Bible of, especially mostly in the Old Testament, of God destroying entire towns for the actions of a couple people. So, yeah, a little bit of Bible lore for you there. To begin with, Link was not working against the goddesses. I was just saying he's not working against them. Without the help of the goddesses, Link would have died on the last day along with everyone else. But somehow, whenever Link played the Song of Time, things started over. How does the Song of Time have this power? Recall what Zelda said to Link when she returned to him in Ocarina. Returned the Ocarina to him. You are leaving the land of Hyrule, aren't you? Even though it was only a short time. I feel like I've known you forever. I'll never forget the days we spent together in Hyrule. And I believe in my heart that a day will come when I shall meet you again. Until that day comes, please, take this. I am praying that your journey be a safe one. If something should happen to you, remember this song. The goddess of time is protecting you. If you play the Song of Time, she will aid you. The goddess of time was watching over Link every moment of his struggle to save Termina. When Link prayed to her, she lent him her aid. So, if the goddess wanted Majora to be in Termina, if they wouldn't let their guardians step in and stop the destruction of their own, if the falling moon was a sign of the disapproval of the goddesses, if the land was destined to end, why would the goddesses help Link save the cursed world? The goddesses wanted Termina to be redeemed. The world had been stained by crimes committed long ago, and as long as that stain remained, the Termina was doomed to fade. But the problems that doomed Termina didn't begin with the stone tower. So this note says, though it doesn't truly matter which of the three goddesses is the goddess of time, it seems that she is Nehru. Nehru gave the spirit of law to the worlds, the three goddesses were created, and time can be considered one of the laws of nature. Also, both Nehru and time represented the N64 Zeldas, as well as an Oracle of Ages by the color blue. Interesting. Part 2. Man, this is gonna be a long video, guys. Buckle up. Happily ever after. This tale is from long ago, when all the people weren't separated into four worlds like they are now. In those times, all the people lived together, and the four giants lived among them. On the day of the festival that celebrates the harvest, the giants spoke to the people. We have chosen to guard the people while we sleep. 100 steps north, 100 steps south, 100 steps east, 100 steps west. If you have need, call us in a loud voice by declaring something such as, the mountain blizzard has trapped us, or the ocean is about to swallow us. Your cries shall carry to us. Now then, there is one who is shocked and saddened by all this, a little imp. The imp was a friend of the giants before they had created the four worlds. Why must you leave? Why do you not stay? The childhood friend felt neglected, so he spread his anger across the four worlds. Repeatedly, he wronged all people. Overwhelmed with misfortune, the people sang a song of prayer to the giants who lived in each of the four compass directions. The giants heard their cry and responded with a roar. O imp, we are the protectors of the people. You have caused the people pain. O imp, leave these four worlds, otherwise we shall tear you apart. The imp was frightened and saddened. He had lost his old friends. The imp returned to the heavens, and harmony was restored to the four worlds. And the people rejoiced, and they worshipped the 4 giants of the 4 worlds like gods, and they lived happily ever after. Andrew's grandmother. Sorry, I mixed up my words there. The story reveals where things first went wrong for Termina. Without his friends there by his side, the imp began to listen to that nasty voice in his head. That voice told him again and again that the giants did not want to be with them, that they weren't really his friends. The imp was hurt and distressed, so he lashed out at the people around him and thus was banished from Termina. Many times in the game, the giants are referred to as gods, but here we see that this is a misperception. The giants are guardians, not gods. The people treated them as if they were gods and worshipped them. This is the folly that would ultimately lead them to the rejection of goddesses, the construction of the stone tower temple, and the arrival of Majora. And yet, the next line of the story says very, very naively that the people would live happily ever after. The irony of this line is quite apparent. One simply has to glance upwards and notice the moon filling the sky to see that left alone, the people of Termina were not about to live ever after. Get to know several of the characters in the game. You see that the people of Termina aren't exactly happy either. Take note of the important role promises playing the story. So that is really interesting. This is saying that the guardians of the 4 giants weren't gods, but they were worshipped as gods, and that was kind of the folly that doomed this world. And if you notice, like, if you are somebody that knows about religions, about old religions, especially stuff that's found in like the Bible, the Old Testament, worshiping of false gods is a thing that often would kind of call down the wrath of gods. It's a pretty common story beat in a lot of stories that have to do with deities. Gods that feel that they're left out or not being worshipped correctly get angry and they attack people. It's very common in Greek and Roman mythology as well. If a god feels like he's not as popular as he used to be, he's going to lash out and mess some people up. Okay, the Fallen Kingdom. The stone tower looms over the dead kingdom of Icona. Icona? I can't remember how I'm supposed to say that. Within the ancient castle of Icona, Link defeats the undead spirits of King Egostu Icona and his 2 lackeys. The 2 defeated lackeys begin to bicker with each other before the king silences them. Will you stop? What fools. Haven't you begun to understand the kingdom being ruined and left us in this state? Isn't it petty little battles like this that have caused it? Believing in your friends and embracing that belief by forgiving failure. These feelings have vanished from our hearts. Egostu Icona. The story of the fallen kingdom of Icona serves as a cautionary tale for the rest of Termina. The death of that country foreshadows the death of the rest of the world, and here the king explains just why his kingdom fell. There were petty disputes between friends. People didn't trust each other. They harbored suspicions and sought vengeance when they felt wrong. Termina's happy ending had been fading away ever since that lonely imp had been unable to trust his friends. He spread his misery to the people around him, and they sought vengeance against him. The wrongs were never righted. The burning hand atop the stone tower that curses the heavens is there to make a statement about Termina. It is a world without faith. The goddesses do not want Termina to fall into oblivion, but the land is already consumed by the spirit of doubt. Because of this, the hopeless world is doomed to fade away. So interesting. In this world he's talking about, he doesn't find the goddesses as vengeful. They don't want it to fall into oblivion. That's why they enlist the help of Link. But it's already consumed by the spirit of doubt, and they feel that they can't do anything to stop it. So that's why they bring Link. I wonder if he'll mention the line that Skull Kid says to you during the initial encounter that you have with him, where you fight him on top of the tower and clock tower. He has a line that I've always really loved where he says, he's talking about the moon. He says, like, if there's anything you can do to stop it, then do it. Like it can't be stopped is what he's saying. And so that's interesting that it would almost echo this idea that the goddesses bring Link to this world, essentially telling him the same thing. If this is something that could be stopped, why don't you stop it? And Link does stop it. Interesting. A test of faith. Are you ready? You're the bad guy, and when you're bad, you just run. That's fine, right? Child wear Majora's Mask. Oh my goodness, dude. The children in Majora's Mask are like some of my favorite moments of fiction ever. Shea Frillis Productions has a fantastic video where he talks about how Majora's Mask is his favorite work of art ever, which is super cool. I love Majora's Mask, but these freaking kids that show up in the moon are so creepy to me. And the fact that they're all look like the Happy Mask salesman, and they're all wearing masks, and they're saying these things about being good guys and bad guys. And it's just eerie. And when you're bad, you just run. That's fine, right? This is just making me, like, I need to replay through Majora's Mask. I was already kind of planning on doing it. I started up a file in Ocarina, but I need to replay through Majora's Mask and just, like, read everything. Just, like, really intently read through it, because I feel like I'm so bad. I got ADHD brain, so I don't want to read through all that stuff. Okay. At the opening of the game, Link himself seems consumed by his own doubts. He arrives to the woods downcast and downtrodden. Skull Kid finds him and uses Majora's Mask to curse the boy Link. No, curse the boy. Link sees a vision of a mob of Deku scrubs. Sorry, I say Dooku. When I was a kid, that's how me and my brothers pronounced it. Despite it, like, that's just not correct pronunciation. We were just kind of dumb. And I always just think of Count Dooku. Deku scrubs, swarming him. Their angry eyes glaring at him. Link turns and runs from them, holding his hands over his head. He runs and runs, but he can't escape. And as Link runs, a gigantic Deku scrub materializes behind him and swallows the boy. Link awakens in the form of a Deku scrub. 3 days later, Link brings the Ocarina of Time to the Happy Mouse salesman who plays the Song of Healing for the boy. Link has a second vision. This time he is not running. He stands confidently facing the gigantic Deku scrub. He waves as it shrinks into nothingness. Link awakens in his human form. The salesman, having fulfilled his promise, then asked Link to fulfill his own promise to return the Majora's Mask. Though it may seem like a daunting task, the salesman offers Link's words of reassurance again and again. Is it not a simple task? Why, to someone like you, it should be by no means a difficult task, but yes, you'll be fine. I see you're young and have tremendous courage. I'm sure you'll find it right away. Well then, I'm counting on you. You'll be fine. Surely you should be able to recover Majora's Mask. I believe in you. Fear not, for the magic has been sealed inside the mask. Please make the most of your time. I believe in you. I will be here waiting for you. Ho, ho, ho. You have done some good work. Keep up that pace. I'm counting you to get my mask. Believe in your strengths. Believe. Happy Mask Salesman. Later, when Link ventures into the northern mountains, he comes across the owl. The owl remembers meeting Link in the swamp, even though time may have reset since then. Hoot, hoot. We meet again, fairy child. Have my stone statues been of help? Well, it seems you may have the strength to change the fate of this land as I was expected, but the road ahead is even more challenging. Many trials await you. Please watch over these Gorons around you. Their land is doomed to be smothered in snow and ice forever. It will become a land where no living creature can survive. Without courage and determination, you will surely collapse from the extreme conditions. But if that courage and determination burns bright within you, then that's another story. So will you proceed? If Link answers no, I shall pass no judgment. If that is your decision, then return to town and retreat. Courage returns. If Link talks to the owl again, what is that? What is it that you're doing? Beyond here, you will fall into oblivion unless you have a great courage and determination. Link agrees to proceed. Hoot, hoot. You're a child of many strengths. Well, perhaps you do have enough strength to change the fate of this mountain after all. I shall take to the air now, flying towards that shrine across the way. So, follow behind me. Do not be daunted by appearances. Instead, let your feelings guide you, and the true path shall open up before you. Are you ready? Follow behind me. Link falls into the void. This is when you're going to get the lens of truth, and you're going on the invisible platforms. I guess if you fall into the void, this is what he says. It seems things are not going well for you. Hoot hoot. Fear not, it never goes well for anyone at first. But by no means should you grow impatient. Impatient brings uneasiness and distracts the heart. Well, will you try again? Very good. I shall fly towards that shrine. Follow behind me. If Link crosses the void, hoot hoot. I've certainly been assured of your courage and determination. From here on, you will not be fooled by appearances. You must rely on your feelings. That's what the owl says. At this point, the owl seems to believe that the boy has the power to change the destiny of the doomed world. And so the owl tests Link's faith. He asks Link to jump into the void before him. The owl's feathers fall into the void and land in midair. Link needs to trust that it will be okay for him to take the leap. When he does, he lands safely midair, but by falling behind the owl, he's able to cross the void. As intimidating as the task may have seemed, things turned out to be okay. And that's a really cool portion of the game. Snowhead has always been my least favorite part of Majora's Mask, but there's a lot of cool thematic stuff that, with the Gorons and unfreezing them and learning about just kind of how that works. I think the reason I don't like it is because the lead up to the dungeon can feel a little bit tedious, and I don't necessarily love the Snowhead Temple, but and it's really cool to read all these dialogue, because honestly some of this dialogue I've never read before because I've never answered no. I don't think I've ever fallen into the void before because I'm a pro gamer. But let's go. Okay, belief and disbelief. Both the owl and the salesman try to instill a sense of faith in the player, because they know you need faith if you were to stop and redeem Majora and If you stop Majora and redeem Termina. At any point, you can look upwards at the moon and quiver in fear. You can look ahead and see Woodfall, the mountains, and the stone tower looming before you and become daunted. When you enter the pitch-black room of the Woodfall Temple and Tattle warns you of evil lurking in the darkness, fear may keep you from proceeding. When you enter the huge central chamber of Snowhead Temple and see all the crisscrossing platforms above you may feel dizzy. When you enter the Stone Tower Temple and see the abyss below you and the dangerous, complex, and confusing path upwards, you may want to retreat. When your world is flipped upside down, you may feel paralyzed. It's interesting he's not mentioning the the Great Bay Temple. I'm like, Great Bay Temple is the most daunting temple of all to me, honestly. Just the having to deal with the swimming and rotating the water. Um, what's really interesting. I love this paragraph because it talks about feeling daunted in the game and not wanting to proceed. And what's funny is I felt that personally for like years. Like I had played most other Zelda game and beat most other Zelda games before I went to actually go beat Majora's Mask. And I think I might have been the first of my family to beat it. I've got four brothers and a sister, and my four brothers all played Zelda a lot growing up, especially my brother 2 years older than me and my brother 2 years younger than me. So we played a lot of Zelda, but we didn't. We only had Majora's Mask on the collector's edition disc on the GameCube, and then there was a copy of it on the N64 in my grandma's house that I may have snuck home with me one time. That's the one that I have now. But anyway, I don't think any of us had beaten Majora's Mask because it seemed really daunting, like the whole 3-day thing, and some of the dungeons were tricky, and we had heard about the Great Bay Temple and how hard that was, and so I think I was the first to be like, okay, I'm going to beat this game, and I was like, we almost kind of saw it as the black sheep of the franchise, and like a game that didn't really feel like Zelda, but it's like my favorite Zelda game. It's so cool. It builds on Ocarina of the best ways, and I think it has the most consistent dungeon quality of any of the game in the series, so it's really fun to revisit because I feel like it just gets going right away instead of like taking some time to start actually playing the game, which is a problem that a lot of Zelda games have, especially like Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. So I love that game, and I know the experience of feeling daunted when it comes to looking at that game, but then persevering. So it's cool that he pulls out that theme that I experienced that in my personal life as well. When you've spoken to everyone in Clocktown while wearing Caffey's mask, I don't know if you say Caffey or Cafe. I always say Caffey. And you still have no idea how to reunite him and Andrew, you may want to give up. When Caffey is running towards the inn from Mikana, and Andrew is waiting in her room, and the moon is failing and time is running out, and earthquakes shake the ground, and still the boy does not appear, you may leave the inn and run frantically towards Ikana. Afraid you overlooked something, you may see the last hours disappear and play the song of time in fear and desperation. But if you were there for the reunion, you need to swallow your fears and doubts and wait with Anju until the very end. But under ordinary circumstances, Anju won't even be there in her room. On the first day, she puts a calm face behind the reception desk and greets visitors. She receives a letter from Caffey, her missing fiance. On the second day, she sits at the laundry pool and cries. Excuse me, have you seen a man in this area? He looks like this. He disappeared about 1 month ago and is wearing with his wedding ceremony mask. I'm actually afraid to meet him and hear the reason why he wanted to disappear. It might be because of me. They're only 2 days into the carnival. Should I wait? Caffey. Andrew. That night, Andrew's mother reminds Andrew that they will be leaving for the ranch the next day. Andrew mentions the rumor that Caffey ran off with Cremia, but her mother tells her to forget Caffey and forget the letter. Andrew leaves the inn on the final day and spends the night at the ranch with her head buried in her hands. But if Link gives the pendant of memories to Andrew, she immediately remembers the sincerity of Caffey's promise to her, and she decides to wait for him as the moon falls. Throughout the 3 days, she's been sobbing, hesitating, second-guessing herself, apologizing, worrying, but now as she faces her imminent death, she sits calmly in her bed and waits for her fiancé to return. I've decided to wait for him. I've made my promise. I'm fine with this. I believe him, Andrew. And this is exactly why the goddess arranged for Link to enter Termina. This is why Link has the power to change the destiny of Termina. And the salesman and the owl help him develop a strong sense of faith, and Link instills that faith in the people of Termina as he struggles to save them. Come on, man. Majora's Mask is a masterpiece, dude. Like, I'm so stoked to play this game again. This is so cool. I need to think more about the story when I play because I just love the gameplay of the game. But I feel like reading these stories again is going to be super just gratifying. So if you have not beaten Majora's Mask yet, please go play that. It's like one of the best Zelda games. Like I said, I think it's my second favorite behind Tears of the Kingdom. But on any day, that could change. Okay, the Deku King realizes he shouldn't have been so quick to doubt the monkey. The Goron baby stops crying and sleeps with the thoughts of his father standing by his side and comforting him. Guru is able to clear his troubled conscience. The lingering regrets of Kamaro and the Gibdos are healed. Darmani sees a vision of a crowd of his Goron brothers standing before him and cheering wildly. He is comforted and his soul is able to move on in peace. Gorman stops drinking and berates himself, and as he is reminded of the song that once inspired him. Before, he had hated himself, feeling worthless and inferior to his brothers, but Gorman didn't realize what his brothers really thought of him. So he's gone to the world of entertainment. The younger brother of mine is really struggling. Compare what he does to what we do. No, no, no. All the things that we, the Gorman brothers, have done. Grr, we're the notorious Gorman brothers. We can't get all sappy over stuff like this, the Gorman brothers. Gorman had felt inferior to his brothers, not knowing that they felt inferior to him. That's a cool little story. The face under the mask, dude. So freaking eerie. This game is eerie, dude. Your real face. Show it to me. Child wearing Majora's mask. Through the character of Anju, we were able to see the difference between faith and doubt and how profoundly they can change people, even if the situation remains the same. Because of this, we may be better able to understand Skull Kid, who uses Majora's mask to try to destroy Termina. Skull Kid is the lonely imp from ancient times who felt neglected when his friends, the giants, left him. Though he was banished from Termina, he returns to the land ages later. He steals Majora's mask from the salesman and uses its dark powers to spread misery and suffering across Termina. People speak of him with contempt. When Link encounters him, Skull Kid acts cold and aloof. He betrays his friends Tattle and Tail and stands atop the clock tower at the center of Termina and waits for the moon to come crashing down. Throughout all this, Skull Kid hides his face behind Majora's mask. He presents this strong, hateful face to the world so that no one can notice his many insecurities. He keeps his soul hidden from the world, and thus he allows it to fall prey to the demon Majora. He ceaselessly contemplates how his friends abandoned him and how the world rejected him. No one can offer him comfort, support, or sympathy because he does not have the strength of heart to show anyone his true suffering face. The only voice he hears is that of Majora, the enemy of faith. Majora attacks Skull Kid's unhealed scars, reminding him of all the pain the world has caused him. In his isolation and loneliness, Skull Kid allows his fears and doubts to grow larger and larger until they swallow him, and the demon Majora takes control. Majora then targets the world of Termina, summoning the moon down from the heavens to spread fear and doubt across the land before destroying it. I shall consume everything, the moon possessed by Majora's mask. Termina, however, is saved by Tattle and Link, who go into the mouth of the moon in a tremendous act of faith. They destroy Majora and the moon vanishes, leaving behind a rainbow. Skull Kid in his face unmasked, speaks with the giants. This is not, we don't need to, this is like gonna go into game theory science mode, but interesting, the moon vanishes. I'm like, I wonder if you would have any waves at the Great Bay at that point, because the moon controls the tides. I also wonder, I don't think they do that, but it would have been really interesting to have the waves be insane because the moon is so much closer to the Earth. But again, we don't need to talk about that. It would be fun to do a they did the math kind of thing where you figure out how insane those waves would have to be if the moon was that close. But okay, this is the Skull Kid. You guys hadn't forgotten about me. You still thought of me as a friend. All this time, Skull Kid had been unable to trust the friendship of the giants, and it was this weakness that originally marred the world of Termina, but Skull Kid's friends saved him from his self-destruction and forgive his misdeeds. The rainbow in the sky appeared to show that the goddesses have forgiven the world of Termina, the wounds have been healed, and the land is redeemed. But everything is well in the end. Skull Kid's loss of faith led to the deaths of Mikau, Darmani, and the Deku Brothers' son, and these tragedies cannot be undone. Just have faith. From Nintendo Power, dude, I love Nintendo Power. I used to get it every month growing up, and me and my brothers would trade off reading it because we loved it so much. Just devour one Nintendo Power until the next one showed up. But anyway, Nintendo Power is an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto. Is there anything you weren't able to accomplish in Ocarina of Time that you have included in Majora's Mask? Shigeru Miyamoto, yes, in fact. That is why we decided to base the game on 3-day intervals. It allows the gamers to see characters as they go through daily routines in more detail. Depending on which time of day you visit a particular character, he or she will be doing different things, and that may reveal essential clues to the mystery that is at the heart of the game. To conquer the game and solve the mystery, players must learn all about the many characters and discover new masks. It's Nintendo Power issue 134. Majora's Mask was designed to achieve some things Ocarina of Time wasn't able to accomplish. Specifically, the Zelda team wanted to flesh out the character interaction. If you revisit Ocarina of Time, you'll notice Nintendo made an effort to give some depth to many of the side characters in the game. Most of this was done through 2 major side quests, the Mask Trading Sequence and the Big Goron Sword Trading Sequence, both of which built off the Trading Sequence concept as introduced in Link's Awakening. I always love trading sequences in games. I think they're so much fun. Each time you attained a new mask or trading item, you had to figure out which character in the game would be interested in it. As you interacted with characters such as the Cuckoo Girl, or the brother, and her brother, or the Kakariko Guard, you learn a little more about their families and their personal struggles. As you traded with them, you'd often help them find greater happiness. Sound familiar? When Nintendo was developing the premise for Majora's Mask, it may seem they focused on dynamics of these 2 quests and how they could really flesh them out in a new game. Certainly, the role of the mask in Ocarina of Time heavily influenced the design of the sequel, and thus the Happy Mask Sales would be important to the new game. Now, If you look at the salesman's dialogue in Ocarina of Time, you notice that there's one line he repeats again and again: just have faith. Mr. Miyamoto mentions that there is some mystery at the heart of Majora's Mask, something important that the player must discover on his own. I believe this philosophy, to always have faith, is the message that is at the heart of the game. It seems the Zelda team tried to convey this message in Ocarina of Time, but then decided they could do a much better job of it by building a game that would revolve around this idea. Really cool. So I love how this article, this theory, it kind of started right as this creepy, like, the world is evil. They've made this horrifying tower to essentially say a screw to the gods. And now it's kind of turned into like the game itself is positive because Link came back and restored faith to a world that had no faith, literally no faith, and no faith in the gods of the Triforce, but also no faith in themselves, no faith in each other. So Link's responsibility is to come back and restore this faith to the world. The theme of faith and doubt is reflected in so many aspects of Majora's Mask, big and small. To win the dog racing minigame, you must seek out the dogs that believe in themselves. To help people out, you need to trust their promises and keep your own promises. To complete any Deku Flower challenge, you must have the patience to wait until the opportune moment and the confidence to believe that you can fly to your destination. To reach the end of the Goron Moon Dungeon, you need to trust the game enough to let control the control stick and let the rolling Goron bounce off the chest in a straight line. I hate this Goron rolling section. I'm so bad at it because I do not trust the game enough. To find the child hiding in the Zora Moon dungeon, you must not worry when you do not succeed in your first, second, or even third attempt, as the owl cautioned you. Things really go well at first, and impatience leads only to frustration and failure. The land Ikana is overrun by the frightful spirits of the dead, but at the center of this kingdom is the boldly colorful music box house. It belts out a cheerful carnival tune that causes the Gibdos lurking outside to be swallowed by the earth. After helping the troubled people of Termina and gaining all the masks, you receive the Fierce Deity's mask, a representation of the faith you instilled in everyone. With this power, you can completely obliterate Majora, the representation of doubt. In the streets of Clocktown, the twin jugglers play around and make jokes about several disturbing events. You see, we're entertainers. We must keep people smiling. No matter how grim things get, we must always be optimistic. That's what the jugglers say. The game argues they must believe in your strengths and believe in your friends and walk a confident path of hope. If you allow your fears and doubts to grow uncontrollably, they threaten to swallow you just as the Deku Scrub swallowed Link in his dream, and just as the moon tried to swallow Termina. But simple faith won't solve every problem. Even if Anju waited patiently in her room for cafe, I cannot talk right now. It's getting late, not really, but I've been doing this for a while. Her fiance won't necessarily return to her. Anju stayed in her room to wait for Cafe. It's foolish to believe a man like that. I too believed my husband would return out of the blue. Oh, Anju. That child's naive sense of trust may be my fault, Anju's mother. Faith won't change circumstances. It won't make it so suddenly everything goes well and all your friends will start living up to your expectations. But having faith allows you to go through your struggles with a clear mind and a strong heart. Without any strength of heart, a decent person can end up in something resembling Skull Kid's tragic situation. Those without faith might try to run from their troubles, only to find they cannot escape them. Forgive your friend, the Eastern Giant. Friends will always be there for you, and they will at times disappoint you. To address this issue, Majora's Mask also emphasizes the importance of forgiveness. As Ego Studio Kano pointed out, believing in your friends means that you're willing to see past their failures. When Cafe finally returns to Anju after his month-long absence, he raises his arm defensively and apologizes for being late, but instead of unleashing a storm of anger, Anju simply says, "Welcome home." Best side quest in any Zelda game ever, by the way, the Anju and Cafe quest. It's kind of a nightmare to figure out. Like, the gameplay of it's not the best, but the payoff is so unbelievably amazing. It's always the last mask I get in the game, obviously before it's the Fierce Deity's mask, because it's just perfect. Making towers to heaven. You have a frightful mask, but being able to see into people's hearts and minds seems useful. Happy Mask Salesman. Early in this article, I mentioned that the Stone Tower Temple is likely an allusion to the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. The people of Termina tried to build a tower that would reach the heavens. The goddess disapproved and foiled their plans, and afterwards Termina was a cursed land. In the biblical story, people tried to build a tower that would reach heaven. God disapproved and foiled their plans. Afterwards, each person spoke a different language, and cooperation seemed to become impossible. Mankind had become divided. Though the people of Termina do not all speak different languages, they are similarly divided when Link enters their land. They do not understand the hearts of their friends. They lose faith in their friends. They grow suspicious of each other. They bicker with each other. They seek vengeance when they are wronged. They become lonely and isolated. They keep secrets. They hide their faces under masks. Your friends, what kind of people are they? I wonder, do those people think of you as a friend? What makes you happy? I wonder what makes you happy. Does it make others happy too? The right thing, what is it? I wonder if you do the right thing, does it really make everybody happy? Your true face, what kind of face is it? I wonder. The face under your mask, is that your true face? The masked children, that's what they all say. I shall meet you again. When Majora's Mask opens, Link is in the middle of a long journey in search of his beloved and invaluable friend, but when the moon vanishes from the skies of Termina, Tattle mentions that both she and Link have found what they were seeking. At that point, the Happy Mask salesman offers Link these words: shouldn't you be returning home as well? Whenever there is a meeting, a parting is sure to follow. However, that parting need not last forever. Whether parting be forever or for merely a short time, that is up to you, the Happy Mask salesman. The game ends as Link is riding through the forest once more. Perhaps he's continuing to search for his departed friend, but there is a chance that he is heading somewhere else. When Princess Zelda bids farewell to Link, she says that she believed in her heart the day would come that they would meet again, and both Tattle and the salesman believe that Link has found that which he was truly seeking. His journey has come to a close, and it's time for him to return home. Everyone has gone away, haven't they? A child wearing Majora's Mask. Long ago, the four giants departed and left behind their friend Skull Kid. Skull Kid was torn. He didn't understand why his friends left, and he didn't believe that they would ever be there for him again. In his loneliness, he lost all faith. At the end of Ocarina of Time, Link's longtime friend departed as well. He didn't know why she left, where she had gone, or whether he would ever meet her again. In his loneliness, Link begins a long journey in search of her, but the search is fruitless, and as Link nearly loses all hope, his desperation is the only thing that keeps him going. But Zelda's close friend had also departed. She didn't know where he would go or how long he would be away, but she believed that she would one day see him again in his absence. She waits patiently and prays for him, and when the time is right, the Happy Mask salesman reminds Link that there's someone back home awaiting his return. So as Link returns home, having found what he was after, he trusts that one day his beloved and invaluable friend will return to him. We've got one last note here. If you decide to replay Majora's Mask, pay close attention to the development of Tattle's character. It illustrates very well the message of the story. She wears her own mask to hide her insecurities, but there are times when she tries to remove the mask and reveal her true feelings. She typically acts snide and sarcastic towards Link, but at one point she apologizes for his actions, and towards the end she even admits to admiring Link. Tattle's close friend viciously betrays her, and she watches as that friend abuses her brother again and again. She declares that she will never forgive Skull Kid. Throughout the game, we see her doubting her brother, Tail, but Tail reveals his strength of heart during the final confrontation atop the clock tower. Tattle draws strength from Link, and Tail is able to find her own sense of faith. This is Dan Morrill. He was a sophomore at the Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. Electronic games. I hope he's doing well. So anyway, just awesome article here. Like really, really well written. You can tell this guy was probably studying electronic game design. He's probably got some experience in writing as well, because this was just really well written. A way more enjoyable read than I was expecting, honestly. I was expecting to be all about kind of the thesis that brings up this story. And I will say, I do wish it went a little bit more into this idea that of explaining evidence for this theory of like this evil tower they built and like how they were cursed. But this Majora's Mask thing was like low-key mind-blowing. I thought that was super, super cool. So yeah, I really loved this theory. Again, I really got to replay the game because Stone Tower Temple being this like big F you to the gods is super interesting. And it's cool how he brought the theory into kind of a hopeful thing in the end. Whereas I was originally seeing it as like, oh yeah, this is like a terrible world that you've been screwed over in. And like Link trying to right the wrongs left him cursed, which maybe isn't true. Maybe I'll reconsider that after watching this whole thing. But this was, a really, really enjoyable read. I really enjoy this. If you have any thoughts about this or you think this is a cool theory, if you think this is total bullcrap, then let me know in the comments below. If you have any more cool Zelda theories like this that you want me to cover or look at, I would love to hear them. I love covering this kind of Zelda theory stuff. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please do that. We're going to be talking about a lot more about Zelda stuff. We're just making videos on whatever I find interesting, but I do find Zelda very interesting, so there's going to be more videos about that soon. Sorry, this is a longer video and a very different kind of video than I normally make, but I just wanted to do this because I thought it was just a super cool article that I found. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you so much. See ya.